A lot of people go, or if I get bigger, is it going to get messier? Am I going to lose more money? Is it going to blow up? Get to a known financial position. I call this KFP, known financial position. When you create a known financial position at your company, only good comes from that.
Hey, how's it going? It's Tim Brown, and this is the Plumbing and HVAC Hustle Podcast. And today I've got Ellen Rohr on. What a treat.
Yeah, let's
Zoom
hustle.
Drains. Let's go.
I'm all about it.
Zoom Drains, but also Service Titan.
Yes.
So how did you kind of find your way into the Service Titan world from Zoom Drains?
Well, I'm a founder and owner of Zoom Drain. It's a franchise. We have 60 locations, very exciting. It's actually grown to the place that it really doesn't need me day to day. My partner and I are fairly redundant at this point. And so we've hired people to replace me on the day to day. I'm still an owner and always a founder, and I love Zoom Drain so much. And I found myself with some free time. I live in Utah. Zoom Drain's located in Philadelphia. So I imposed myself on Service Titan. We've been Service Titan customers for 10 plus years, and I love them. And I know that anything I do with Service Titan is ultimately going to benefit the trades, Zoom Drain included. So I love what I'm doing. Right now, I get to stand up the brand ambassador program. And what that means is, well, you know how Red Bull is to extreme sports, Service Titan is to the trades. We want to show off how wonderful tradespeople of all stripes are in every position.
Yeah.
So I got the best life. And I got to meet you.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah.
Can I get you to give us a little bit of like either numbers or like anything with numbers related to Zoom Drains?
I can tell how comfortable you are talking about numbers by how you just asked me.
Yeah. I'm curious about the revenue size. Some people find it distasteful to ask directly, like, what did Zoom Drains go to revenue-wise?
Well, I can share some things. That's how everybody is. Overall, at the organization, we're over 50 million in sales.
Yeah.
55, which is terrific. When we work with franchisees, and this would go to any company of any size, and let's see how this applies to you. If you get to about $1.5 million in sales, you have to have some systems in place. If you can get to $1.5 million, and then you start working on your system so that you're profitable, start with sales, profits, and keep an eye on cash. Those are the three main metrics. And I used to be really intimidated. Once you're at $1.5 million, you really could go as far as you want to go. It's just like getting that rocket to orbit. You know, then you've got a chance to go as big as you want or not. And that's going to be up to you. But my journey, and maybe you and I are alike this way, because you're a really creative guy. When I first started to work with my husband 40 years ago, in his plumbing company, his partner died. It was terrible. I quit my job. I went to work with my husband. And I guess just in this wife of the plumber way, was assigned the bookkeeping. Now, I had a business degree. I thought I was pretty smart. But I'd never done bookkeeping before. And pretty soon, we were up to our eyeballs in debt. My books are a mess. And I was super resentful of the whole thing because I'm a really creative person. There was not one piece of me that wanted to figure out the money, honey. Can you relate to that?
Absolutely. And my wife is the money person.
Okay. Does she like it?
She's starting to like it if there's money. She likes it less when there's not as much money.
And it's
more
stressful.
fun. Yeah.
It's stressful on the two of you. And in my marriage, it was very damaging because I would say to my husband, we don't have enough money, and he would hear, I'm not working hard enough, I'm not good enough. Like there was all this emotional stuff that was kind of packed into those moments of lack and despair, really. So fixing the money will be very good for your marriage.
Yes. You know? And I think like I'm probably not alone in this, that I have found a place where I've got a good amount of revenue. Like just for a sense of your scale, and you're trying to make this useful to me too, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, let's do it.
We're talking about making numbers simpler for you so that you can actually leverage them.
Yep.
I think we'll also talk a little bit about to scale or not to scale, because that is a question.
Is that a question for you?
I think that's a question for me too.
Yeah, I mean, A lot
Yeah.
of people go, or if I get bigger, is it going to get messier? Am I going to lose more money? Is it going to
Exactly.
blow up? So
Exactly. When your margins are thinner, it's much less fun to think about scaling that.
yeah.
And I
Oh,
think
there's a lot of topics already in what you've said.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. So I want to start with that whole, like, for instance, we're 5 million.
Okay.
But profit margins have always been a problem for us. We just don't know how to do that very well, and we're probably like at more like 5% profit.
Okay.
And I think about, like, if you think about owners pay and all that, maybe like 15. Like,
Yeah.
so 15% of 5 million. So then, and I've always felt like if it was only 5%, I'm not excited to go to 10, kind of. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not that exciting when it's that thin.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a little scary, because you're adding so much risk, and you're adding customers.
Yeah.
When there's it's not as fun. But I mean, I don't know. To you, I mean, there's a lot of corollaries to a trades business.
Well, let's start with your responsibility as the owner. You're the owner.
Yes.
You're the cheese. It's your money.
Mm-hmm.
So you're required to pay attention to it.
Yes.
So deep breath on that. Otherwise, go work for somebody else. But if you're going to be the owner, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you take on that responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough?
Yes.
That's the delicious pressure of it. So that's step one. Then
Yeah.
step two is to get to a known financial position. I call this KFP, known financial position. Now, there aren't many things in life that if you do them, no bad thing happens. No bad thing happens. When you create a known financial position at your company, only good comes from that. Isn't that a nice thing to know? So this is what known financial position means, that your books are current, up to date, within the week. I like to look at financials weekly and then the month closed by the 10th of the following month. Some people have a higher standard. The 10th is good. As long as you can run a balance sheet and a profit and loss every week and close the month by the 10th, that's a really good standard. So that they're current, they're accurate, meaning the numbers are right. And the third most important thing is that you understand the financials, the balance sheet and the profit and loss. And for you, that's going to be a journey that's going to require some time and attention. Kind of like, what's a sport that you like?
Football.
You like football?
Yeah. Vikings.
The Vikings.
Yeah.
Did you ever play football?
No, not really.
No, not really. Okay.
I played basketball and soccer, but I don't know why I got into football.
Okay, I
Yeah.
shouldn't have asked you what's a sport that you like. Let me ask you, what's a sport you participate in?
Basketball.
Do you play like pickup?
Yeah.
Okay. So could you improve your game?
Absolutely.
Okay. So if you wanted to improve your
Yeah.
game, tell me some of the behaviors that you would do.
Yeah, just shooting, kind of like concerted practice.
Okay, so you would practice with some basic drills.
Yeah.
Okay, what else would you do?
I would play pickup more often. I would engage in the sport.
Okay, you'd play more often.
Yeah.
Would you play with better players?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, that might up your game. What else could you do? What else if you were a student of basketball?
I think just watching YouTube videos and like working on my form.
Watching YouTube videos, watching the game, watching the
Yeah.
pros play,
Yeah.
going to the game. So you would study it, multiple senses, multiple ways, time and energy, and you'd do it. Your journey to financial mastery is going to be the same process. So you're going to go, if Lance says, you can come to my shop and look at his books, why wouldn't you go? Like, go to the shop, sit down with Jolynn, look at the financials. They're super generous. Like, that's an amazing offer. So how do other people keep score? And then maybe go to another person's company, and their style may be different, but still effective. Not everybody plays basketball the same way. And so you're getting enough information that you might try some things and then see the effect. Do I know more? Am I closer to KFP? Are they current, accurate, and I understand each line item in the chart of accounts? Should I structure the chart of accounts in a different way? Is mine messy? Do you understand every account and how the numbers get there?
Okay, you were saying that you took this over originally in this business. Your husband
Yeah.
was
The
doing the
plumber.
work, and did he ever get financial mastery? I'm
No.
trying to figure out if I can ever not.
Oh, that's a really good question. No, and it's why he decided not to be an entrepreneur anymore. But this is how he did it. And this is where, like, there's lots of ways to play, kids. What happened is I became the one at our company who figured out my asset from my elbow. And then I would show my husband, and at first it was very frustrating because I'd cover his desk with all these papers and point to things. And that's when he said to me, going back like 35 years, if you could reduce the numbers that you're pointing to a one pager, I'll look at one page. And you know what? That's a good ask. And that's where you could be.
Yep.
All right. So my responsibility was to make sure we were operating at KFP, that the numbers were right, almost right. They were, you know, I understood them. And then over time, he understood the main KPIs. But because we were married, because we had a vested interest, I mean, you have to really trust the person who's putting those numbers together, and you have to be willing to ask, what's that number? How did it get there? Show me the detail. Let's dig into that one. Because still in all, if there's a mistake and the IRS comes to lock you up, you go to the pokey, not the other people who are helping you put this together. Yeah, right. So you still have to assume that stewardship, but yes, you can get help. But in my husband's case, as we started to grow the business and we got out of debt and we started to make money, money buys options. I wanted to get bigger. And he's like, I don't like any of this. I don't like bossing people around. I like working all by myself. And so on the heels of that information, like knowing the score, a follow-up series of questions is like, okay, why are we doing this? What do we want to do? What do we want to do next? What kind of game plan should we put together? All those business planning questions.
Yeah.
And then now we have a scorecard, and then you can set some goals. But the important thing for you and your wife is, are you on the same path?
Yeah.
Like, I'm setting goals, and Hot Rod, my husband, is going that way.
Hey there, are you a home service business owner that's tired of your answering service just kicking the can down the road? Well, we can help. Pink Collars will assign a dedicated, supported, and trained individual to answer your phones, emails, texts, and even more. Give us a call at 888-325-7465, or better yet, check us out online, www.pinkcollars.com.
Yeah, and I've always been I have aggressive ideas on scale. I haven't cared as much about the profit because I feel like I live well and I don't care that much. But I know it needs to be healthy. But sometimes I feel like, and this is where it's to scale or not to scale.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's like this ego thing. It's ego and kind of like glamour, and I like the idea of us as a $50 million company, but I also don't know if I could handle the stress of a $10 million company.
And what if you just set that aside for a minute and focused on what you want and not so much the hows of it would come together? Like, you currently perhaps are not capable of that.
Sure.
But when you look at different business leaders, like at Zoom Drain, oh, I just hit that.
Yeah, you're good, you're good.
At Zoom Drain, it got to the point where I thought, I don't know that I'm capable of contributing to this company now. Maybe it's outgrown me. That's a fair thing. Like the business is like a car. You can have multiple cars, you could fix a car, you could make the car really supercharged and take it really far, or you could sell it, you could add another one. It's not you. So the business itself exists to create enterprise value, and then you can use that money to do cool things with your life. So consider this when it comes to scaling. Consider that, may I ask you a really impolite question?
Yes.
How many years have you lived?
How many years of what?
Have you lived?
I've lived 38.
38 years. So you might be halfway done. Okay, so what can happen? I'm older than you, so maybe I'm a little more sensitive to this. So what can happen is you are really in your haymaking days, and there may come a time where you would want to have some money put away. And there may be some people in your life that you want to set up or energize in terms of additional businesses or opportunities. So some of the motivation for growing your business might not be for the person you are today, but where you might be in 10 years and where the other team members in your company might go. Because if your company slows down, your good team members will probably leave.
That's probably the number one motivation I have for growing my business is like the opportunities that are people. I actually feel like I've promised them growth, and I've said, hey, we're gonna grow, and I believe we're gonna grow, but it's the making sure it's healthy growth.
Yeah.
That's I mean, it is hard to grow. Like you're saying,
Really?
1.5. A lot of people like get stuck, right? I'm not the only guy.
You're not the only guy to get stuck, but I wouldn't use the word hard.
Well, I've grown 20%, whatever, but it's like I'm at a little. I feel like we had a little plateau. I think we'll grow again, but we like did 20% growth this last year. We're used to 50.
Might I make a suggestion?
Sure.
Don't speak of what you don't want.
Yeah.
Thank the thoughts for sharing,
Yeah.
and then speak of what you do want,
Sure.
being unattached to how you're going to get there.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
So you don't psych yourself out because you're a smart dude, but smart doesn't help. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, I've noticed that.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. I'm an
being
overthinker
smart,
sometimes.
Yeah, like you'll look too far down the chessboard and you'll go, well, we can't win. Well, things are going to happen that you don't control that impact the chessboard, that you might just slow your roll a minute and do what's in front of you in the basic direction of where you say you want to go, with the understanding you could change your mind, and that'll help you lighten up. And so here's a book for you and for you, dear listener. It's called Finish Big, and Wyatt Hepworth of Any Hour recommended it to me. Do you know Wyatt's story?
I don't think I do.
Listen to this story. I hope, Wyatt, I'm doing your story justice. I'm going to make a short version. But he is third generation in a plumbing, HVAC, and electrical company. And after 50 years, he's the third owner, grandpa, dad, him. He's had the company for 20 years. So it's not Wyatt coming into the company that causes it to change. Wyatt's had the company for 20 years, and they are at 3 million in sales. So a 50-year company, 20 of which is under his watch, and they're at 3 million. And he talks to Dustin, who's here. Oh, these guys are some of my favorite people. He talks to Dustin, who's an electrician, and he says, I think we could do better. And Dustin says, I think we can too. So now you get someone else to buy into your vision. I think we can do better. So they go on a road trip, and they call the road trip the Good to Great road trip. And Sarah was involved, Sarah Hepworth, other team members were involved. But the idea is that they were listening to Good to Great, like on a CD, as they're driving to visit different shops, to get inspired, to see what other guys are doing. Why not us, like Lance was saying on stage today. And then they came back and they committed to their own growth and development. Now, I'm going to get these numbers wrong. We're in the ballpark of over 100 million at that same location is where they are. Now this is 12 years later.
Yeah.
Same location is at 100 million. And then they have 25 partner companies around the United States. And they want to, their goal now is to own the home service space in every market that they enter. But they didn't start with that dream. Like it was just, let's see what we could do. We could get better. So then it's 10 million and then it's 20 million. So you can grow into those goals. Does that make sense?
By the way, I love that Good to Great road trip. That is such a cool story.
It's so good. And he's the one who recommended Finish Big because Bo Burlingham, it's a discussion of why and how you would exit your company. You're going to exit your company.
He's the guy that wrote Small Giants.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a very good one.
And he co-wrote The Great Game of Business, another favorite book of mine about open book management, must read or listen to. And so Bo Burlingham is the boss.
Love that.
So is Any Hour. So go to Any Hour.
I'm going to go to Any Hour in January, February, I think, and visit. I think I'm going to do a video tour with their, because they do a lot of open tours. And you should check out, I love the idea of tours. You know, Tommy let me tour like 4 years ago. Like that was my first one, because he just like.
Blow your mind?
Yeah, it blew my mind.
Yeah.
And also it started my touring. So I just started like touring a bunch of companies.
I do that too.
I love it.
It's my favorite thing.
And that's not very common. We're at a roofing conference right now. That's not very common in roofing. So actually, Dimitri, the guy who originally made this conference.
Wonderful.
He's right over here.
Yeah, I love him.
He has kind of popularized, he's the one that popularized that in roofing. So that's really new.
What's cool about drain cleaning and roofing is that these are industries that are wide open. In other words, the competition isn't so tough that you couldn't just go rise to the top of your market. 100% wide open. I think the HVAC guys, they've made, like, I don't know that I would start an HVAC business. They're so good. Why?
Yeah.
But there's so many underserved trades and niches that you could, identify and run with, and roofing is absolutely one.
What would be some other ones? So this is a good little mini topic here.
There's a guy named Jared Williams. You know Jared Williams?
I don't.
Jared Williams is one of our super ambassadors at Service Titan. Keep an eye on this guy. He sold his company, and Jared, I hope I'm telling your story right. He sold his company and realized when the sale was over, he made good money, but not forever money. And he got the feel of like what you could do if you bought, if you fixed and grew and sold a company. So he starts a podcast and a TikTok. He's on Instagram too. And he's telling you what he's doing every day to build a $100 million business. He buys a truck. He gets on Service Titan, not yet, but that's going to be on day 93. So as he's growing his business, he's sharing the journey with you, and it's really spot on, great advice. And that's power washing. He started power washing. So to get to your question, he called around and he said, like, in his town, he called 200 power washers and 3 of them answered the phone. So there's a little market research.
Because they're power washing at that moment.
Yeah. So you can take them.
Yeah.
Right? You could go and do a better job for Mrs. Fernway, for your customer. So yeah, that's a good niche.
I think about, like, I've heard a lot about fencing. It's an up and coming, like, it's kind of the ones that are a little less modernized, right?
Yeah, well, they're just like
pest control.
Pest control. And they're getting
maybe not garage door anymore.
Specialized. Yeah, maybe not. No, I know somebody who's given A1 a run for the money. There's some really good pest control garage door companies out there. Shout out to A+. Shout out to A1. I mean, this is great when you get some good players in the industry. Any industry can hold 2 or 3 behemoths, as well as a lot of good players. But if there's no behemoth in that market, go be that guy.
Yeah.
And even some of the behemoths get lazy. The ones that have been around for 50 years, you can take them. They've stopped advertising. They're kind of well known, but really, literally, in any trade, in any market, there is room. There's just certain ones that I think it's going to be more of it's going to go faster because you don't have to beat out the best marketers on the planet, like you might in Phoenix, Arizona, in HVAC, for instance. Is that where you live? Is that where you're from?
I'm actually from Minnesota.
Oh, you're from Minnesota.
I did recently go visit hvac Home Services down there, which is a lovely shop, and have since got to interview Leland Smith at Home Service Freedom. So I'm just trying to have all the titans of the industry on here. And
thank you.
Yes, I appreciate you.
That's some rarefied air right there.
Yeah.
Those are some cool guys, and there's a lot of them at this conference.
Oh yeah,
I'm pretty starstruck.
Yeah, it's a very cool group. It's interesting though, roofers don't always know. I was like, literally, I'm like standing around with the roofers, and I'm like, you should go talk to. Sorry if I send some people at you, because
I love that.
Because it's
that's
like
why I'm here.
At the home service and HVAC conferences, you probably are a little bit more mobbed than at the roofing one. It's funny because the roofing people don't know yet, maybe always who's who yet in the broader home service world. It's been a little bit of its own segmented.
Okay. Yeah, and let's make sure we tackle your challenges. So let's go back to this, but then I got a tip for how to get a mentor. Okay, we'll talk about that. Yeah. Okay, so if you commit to being a first-rate financial manager, you're going to assume your stewardship. You're going to get to a known financial position.
Yes.
Then you're going to get your team in on the game. So you want your team to help you. This is going to start with your accounting team, but keep in mind that the accounting is good or bad based on the data that the CSR enters, that the dispatcher enters, that the tech using Service Titan out in the field on their tablet. If that's set up properly and connecting properly to your QuickBooks account, now you're going to have better data. But unless you engage your team in the project of getting to a known financial position, you're not going to get there. So engage your team, let them see the numbers, teach them how a budget works, put a little budget in place, get a selling price strategy together. overall be willing to raise your prices. Did you hear Lance say just raised them 10% because? Somebody said I raised my prices 10% because materials went up. Well, you're not really raising your prices. You're just assuming more costs, and that's good. However, raise your prices for the mistakes you've yet to make, for the software that you're about to buy and not implement, for the, like there's stuff that's going to happen. Raise your prices 20, 30% so that you have some wherewithal. And that's going to flow to the bottom line. You're going to use it to pay down any debt you may have incurred while you weren't very profitable. And you're going to stockpile some cash so you can exist for a rainy day, so you can bonus your team members, so you can buy nicer tools and trucks and benefits for them. Start with sales, get profitable, operational excellence, and pay attention to cash. I'm pointing to the income statement and the balance sheet. That's what I'm doing here. So those two reports, balance sheet and income statement, also known as a profit and loss, those are the two. There's only two reports. And every other report is some mashup or relationship of those two reports. I used to hate this stuff, and now it's like my favorite thing.
Yeah.
It's my favorite thing because that's the score. So when you watch football, could you imagine if you're watching the Vikings and they're in the Super Bowl and someone says, oh, we don't have time, we got behind, we're going to mail everybody the score in 3 weeks. Just everybody go out there and have a good time, play your best. You wouldn't even watch. The players wouldn't play. So you can create that kind of energy, offense and defense, with your team. Now you're rocking and rolling. Not just sales, but also how do we manage expenses? How do we massage those costs of goods sold? What are good purchases? What are the systems we could put in that make sure we're not wasteful? And then charge lots of money to our customers and leave a lot in there. There should be a salary for you and your wife. A salary for her, a salary for you, and profit. You're not adding those together to get to your profit. See, you've already...
Well, we've got a fractional CFO, and they're smart. I think one thing that we could learn too, though, it's trying to create a little team buy-in and enthusiasm for budgets. We're doing budgets now. We got to see the fractional CFO. So we're learning.
Fast
we're
on the budget.
It going. We're going.
Okay.
And we're getting better and better with money all the time. That's what I'm telling myself.
Now that's a word to speak to power. I love that.
Well,
now have meetings. So meetings are really how things get done. Have a meeting every week with you and your wife and the fractional CFO, and go over the balance sheet and profit and loss. And at the end of the hour, stop. But during the time together, ask questions until you demystify every account on the balance sheet and the profit and loss.
Still a lot of money chasing these transactions. You know, there's still really good outcomes out there for sellers. It's good to have someone like us in your corner because we're not emotional, but guess what? When you're selling your business, it becomes emotional, and so it's really good to have an intermediary, you know, there every step of the way. www.sfpadvisors.com. All the contact information is directly on the website.
I know what you're going to tell me, but I'm going to face it head on here.
Good.
If I'm not going to those meetings, I should.
1 hour a week. It's your money. Just go, learn something, be a leader.
This is going to be embarrassing, but
Then let's hear it.
I've been taking pride in not being involved with the money.
That's all right. You're forgiven. You're absolved. Okay.
And I think that what I'm feeling from you, and I'm feeling challenged, is that is a cop-out.
These are, as someone we know would say, these are your words, not mine. Yeah, and if that's the realization that you're coming to, just embrace it. And here's also where I am in life. I don't really care how you got here. I don't care what our sins of the past are. The point of power is now, and if you wanted to make a small change, putting on your calendar a meeting that you talk about all things financial. So then if someone comes to you and says, I need to talk to you about this, this, and this, you say, can I wait for the meeting? And they might say, sure. And they might say, it can't. There's a mistake and we're overdrawn $50,000. You might have to jump in. Or I'll even do it to my bookkeeper. I'll say to my bookkeeper, well, do we need, and she'll say, can it wait till the meeting? I don't have to make an emergency out of a non-emergency. Just show up to the meeting. See how that just collapses the time into a better, more productive moment? So save for the meeting what you can save for the meeting. If it needs to be handled now, handle it. But that I'll do that with a lot of things. Someone will say, you got a minute? And I'll say, maybe, give me 5 seconds worth.
Yeah.
And then they tell me, and I'll say, can that wait for the meeting, for the marketing meeting, for the sales training meeting?
Yeah.
Can it wait for the meeting? And if not, they say, well, your car's on fire. Okay, well, let's handle that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What am I
No,
not
you're
asking?
doing good.
Yeah. What am I not asking that like an average, let's say plumbing or HVAC or home service business would be asking you that we can consolidate and give to them? Like,
okay, well,
other
this
questions?
is what gets
Yeah.
into like finding a mentor. So if you wanted someone to help you become a better financial steward, and if you came up to me and you said, Ellen, my last bookkeeper screwed me over and this happened and this happened, first off, I'll cut you off because I don't care about any of that.
Yeah.
Okay, where are you now?
Yeah.
Where are you now? I really don't understand my balance sheet and profit and loss. I will give you an assignment. And the assignment might be, have you read my book? Read my book. Or are you planning to go to Lance's? Great, go to Lance's. And then I'll say something like, and after you do that, let's schedule an appointment to talk. Because until you do, like if you start having that financial meeting, here's what I know, you'll have questions. And once you do that, I'm interested in visiting with you about that. But if you won't take my very first suggestion, I'm not going to invest much more in you. It doesn't make me right or wrong or you right or wrong. I just might not be your coach.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
That's great.
Yeah. And I'm not soliciting for clients right now. I am honor bound to help people. But I'm not interested in just throwing seeds on stony ground either. I'll throw them. But I'm only going to go so far with it until you bring yourself to the party. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely.
And so like with a mentor too, what else would the mentor need? So you approach somebody and say, hey, would you help me with whatever, with operations, with marketing? Be willing to buy it. How do you afford to buy it? You raise your prices, you have more wherewithal, you buy the app you may or may not use. Like that's how you should buy some of these things. And everyone in this room is honor bound to give back because so many people have been generous with them. So when you ask for help, be willing to also ask, what can I do for you? What part of your business needs a little help? Maybe I know somebody, maybe I can help you out. And it is absolutely who you know in this world that will connect you to everything you need. So when you set your dream of being 10 million, no, all you've got to do is dream it and take some action in that direction, and I promise you things will come from the right or the left that you never saw coming that will help you along the way.
That's a great